Welcome to this edition of Lancashire Business Stories. I'm your host Paul Lim, and this week we're joined by Carolina de Almeida Kennedy, the founder of Chewing with River. We'll hear about Carolina's story, how she started out working in a students' union and taking part-time puppy classes to following her passion for dogs and becoming a full-time canine nutrition and training specialist. We'll hear how she's grown the business, both online and through strategic partnerships, and about her plans for the future. And we'll also hear how she came up with the name Chewing with River. Now, if you haven't listened to the podcast before and this is your first time, please hit the subscribe and follow buttons. We'd really appreciate your help. Let's get to it. Carolina de Almeida Kennedy, welcome to Lancashire Business Stories.
Thank you, Paul.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, we're going to have a chat about how you got started, what your business, Chewing with River, is all about, because it's probably the most unusual name I've ever heard, and what's in it for the future. So let's get started by talking about Carolina and how she got started in her career. So what were you doing before you had your own business?
So I started my career working at UConn Students' Union. So very much in the students' politics world, working with volunteer students, supporting mental health, supporting elections, all the fun stuff. And then I moved on to work for a mental health charity based in Accrington, delivering mental health and menopause training. And that's really the only two real jobs that I had, outside of part-time jobs when I was a student, of course. Yeah. Shout out to Costa Coffee, because that was one of my favorite jobs ever. So that's how I started. So very far removed from what I do now, definitely.
Kind of, yeah.
Well, yeah. There's definitely a lot of crossover.
So how did you get from doing those various different kinds of jobs, some hospitality jobs, some other things as well, to being a business owner, particularly in the world of sort of canine nutrition and training?
Yeah, so my first business was actually a baking business. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you.
No, you haven't, no.
So me and my husband had a baking business called BKD. We did brownies. So we did postal deliveries, we did loads of markets. And that, I think, was 2018 that we opened that business. And we were doing that alongside full-time jobs. So I think I always had a bit of a entrepreneurial streak to me. I always quite liked the idea of doing something else, something for myself. But then it just got too much, the long evenings baking, every weekend delivering, running to the post office before it closed to send all the brownies through the post. So we decided to close that. But then whilst I still had that and was working full time, I started volunteering for a dog trainer. And helping out at puppy classes. So that's kind of how I got into the dog world, really. So it was just wanting to do a bit of volunteering, wanting to do something with animals.
Yeah. Did you have your own dog at the time?
I didn't, no.
Right.
No, I didn't have River yet at that point. So I started volunteering at the puppy classes, and I just loved it. I loved how much it was about the dog, but also the people. Yeah. And, seeing how many of the guardians were so overwhelmed with their puppy and so stressed out. And I think that really pulled on, obviously, my background in psychology, my previous work supporting young adults, but also supporting mental health training when I was doing that. So, as you said, you start to kind of find some threads that actually there's some really big similarities. So that was it. Volunteering, just something to do, and I just fell in love with it. Yeah.
And how did you get to the stage from falling in love doing puppy training for somebody else to actually running your own business with Chewing with River? Because you've had a couple of stages, a couple of steps to get there, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a journey. So I started off doing the volunteering, and then the business owner of that business actually offered me the opportunity to mentor me, to teach me to become a trainer. And, me being me, I was just why not? Let's give it a go.
Say yes, what's the question?
Well, so I started being mentored, started taking courses to learn how to be a dog trainer, and started working for her and for her business. And that's the business that I worked with for the last 3-4 years. Yeah. And again, this was all alongside whilst I was working full time. It wasn't actually until last year, 2025, that I went down to part-time hours with my job, so I could do more dog training. And then in April 2024, and then April 2025 was when I decided to do training through my own business, Chewing with River. So as you said, it's been a few different stages. But I'm coming up to 12 months now of working full time for myself.
I've got to ask, how did you come up with the name? Because I know River's the name of your dog.
Yeah. River is my girl. She's a 5-year-old golden retriever. And when we first got her was when I started getting into the nutrition side of things. And just before I got it was when I'd started doing the volunteering. So when I opened Chewing with River at the time, I think this was 2021, 2022, I started selling natural treats. So like pig's ears, rabbit ears, that sort of stuff, hence the chewing, because I was selling natural treats. So we're Chewing with River because River was the inspiration for it. And I just kept the name because I built a brand around it,
Yeah, brilliant. And so you part nutrition advice, part training.
Yeah.
Do they tend to blend together, or have you got very separate businesses for the two?
Oh, no, they're all under the same business, and there's so much crossover. And you don't often find trainers or behaviorists that also work on the nutrition side. You do tend to see, generally speaking, people have separate businesses. So it's quite a niche for me to have that expertise and qualifications across both parts. But there's loads of crossover because there's such a huge link between the brain and the gut, same as humans. And so it makes total sense for me to be doing behavioral work and addressing like the overall health of the dog as well at the same time.
Now, I know when we've talked in the past, you are really passionate about what you do and quite outspoken at times.
Yes.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Gobby is the right word.
Gobby, yeah, that's a Lancashire word, I think, isn't it? I don't know how that translates into Portuguese.
I couldn't tell you. I don't know if I even can speak Portuguese anymore. It's been that long since I left the country, Wow.
So give us a few basics around nutrition, and then we can talk a little bit about training as well. What are the things that, as a dog owner, because, we've got a dog as well, Dora, what kind of things should we be watching out for? And what should we avoid without trying to get us...
Go too deep,
sued.
Yeah.
Sued was the word I'm looking for.
I won't get anyone sued. I won't mention brands. So I think the canine nutrition world is really overwhelming to navigate for dog guardians. And I think part of the reason, and maybe one of the things to avoid, is all the Facebook groups, all the internet influencers, and even some professionals that share really conflicting and sometimes just untrue advice. And so from the avoidance perspective, avoid taking something you see online as gospel.
At face value.
Yeah.
It's the same for humans as well. You think about all the different kinds of products and services and ways of dieting and exercise. You can get one person saying this works, and then the following day you get somebody who says this works, and they're completely conflicting.
Yeah,
so you've got to be really careful about the advice that you take.
Yeah, and similarly to the human nutrition world, what you also see in the canine nutrition world is very strong opinions and almost cult-like ideas of what a dog should be fed. So in the human world, some people will be like, keto is the way to go. Other people will be like, carnivore is the way to go. This is the way to go. And you sometimes can get so pulled into that sort of sphere that you do become almost blind to everything around you.
Yeah.
And it's the same in the dog world. Some people are absolutists when it comes to raw feeding. Some people think that raw is going to kill your dog. And then you've got all the different types of diet in between the raw and the kibble, which is your wet foods, your freeze-dried, all of this. So what I would say to anyone listening that has a dog and wants to do the best for their dog is speak to somebody that knows what they're talking about, and take their advice that is tailored to your dog.
Yeah.
Because there might be some dogs that raw will be absolutely the best diet for them. There'll be some dogs that actually they can do quite well on a wet food or a freeze-dried or even a kibble. And also with dogs, you don't have to just think about the dog. Because yes, if I'm saying what's the gold standard of feeding, I probably would say a fresh, raw or cooked diet would be the gold standard. But we've got to think about the practicalities of that for the owners as well.
Yeah.
You know, is it financially feasible? Do you
Yeah.
have the storage space? Do you have the time to prepare food, etc.? So
I think it really depends on the dog, you know, ultimately, doesn't it? It's what's best suited for your particular dog. And sometimes there's a little bit of trial and error in that as well. You know, we've got a 5.5, 6 stone dog, and you know what she eats could be quite different to maybe what a smaller dog might want.
And also the cost of it, because if you've got like a small dog, it's going to be really cost efficient and probably quite easy also from a storage perspective to feed raw. If you've got a really large dog, or if you've got multiple dogs, that could get quite expensive and quite difficult to store.
We get a box of food like this delivered every 3 weeks, 4 weeks or so.
Exactly. So I think those are all different considerations that people have to have, and that a professional should be thinking about those things when they're talking to you. Like I sometimes get people that come to me and they say, oh, but I don't know if I want a raw feed, so I don't know if I can work with you. And I was like, no, you absolutely can, because you know, my priority is giving you the best possible information so you can make an informed decision about what you can practically, sustainably do for your dog and what's going to be best for your dog. And you know, that's my priority first and foremost. It's not about being an absolutist or, you know, negating other diets just because they might not be as good. It's about what's going to be more practical.
Okay. So you work with some brands as well. So are you a sort of brand ambassador for them? How does all that work? 'Cause I know you've just come back from Crufts as we record this, haven't you? Yes,
I have. And it's the eye bags. There's a lot of foundation that has gone into this to try to hide them. Yes, I have just come back from Crufts, and I was working with a brand called Carnley, and they are bone broth and supplement brand. So I don't work with brands so much as an ambassador. It's more so brands that I've already used. Brands that I really believe in and understand very well about their products, where I might maybe attend events to support them, where maybe I do demonstrations of their products on my social media, maybe they provide a discount code that my clients can use. But I try to be very careful when I work with brands in terms of, I always reject commissions. For example, there's a lot of people that will take like a kickback. I don't take kickbacks from brands. I pass the discount codes fully to my clients. So, you know, if people listening have done brand collaborations before, sometimes you can do 10% to the client, then you get a 10% commission. I would give the 20% to the client. So that's how I try to kind of navigate that. And I only work with brands that are ethical. That's a big part of it for me.
That align with your values.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it tends to be more natural sort of foods, natural products.
Yeah. And
people who've got good set of values.
Yeah, absolutely. The product has to be sound. The ingredients that are sourced need to be sound. The processing, and also the general ethics of the company. So, for example, is the brand really clear on what they will and won't accept in terms of handling, training, methods, etc. So I always have those conversations first and foremost. And there have been brands that I've rejected because they haven't had that in place, or that I've had to say to them, do you know what? Why don't you go away, have a think about your ethics policy and creating something around ethics and welfare, and then let's have another chat.
Yeah. Let's talk about training, because I could sit here and talk for hours about how good our dog is, but it's not really down to the dog. It's down to the people who are the parents. Let's call them parents. Of the dog. Do you find yourself training the parents more than training the dogs?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because you're a dog trainer, but you're an owner trainer.
No,
really,
I'm a person trainer, really. Yeah, I train the humans, absolutely. And I think there are some instances where the dog needs a bit more support. For example, where there's pain involved, where there's gut issues, orthopedic conditions. And so in that sense, we will obviously focus a lot more on the dog. But generally speaking, if I have a healthy dog from a physical health perspective and there's behavioral challenges, or we're trying to prevent behavioral challenges, I'm working with the humans to make sure that they feel confident and have the skills to support their dog, not just whilst we work together, but after I'm gone, because I don't want to be there forever, you know. And I do a 4-session program. And for most of my clients, I say to them, like, I want you to get the most out of these 4 sessions and then wave you goodbye. Like, I don't want you to need me for ages and ages. So it's the humans. And I think a lot of it is a confidence issue and an overwhelm issue. Again, same thing as nutrition, the misinformation online. People turn into ChatGPT now for dog training advice, which is just baffles my mind. So there's a lot of, on the human side of the lead, that is constantly in conflict about what is the right thing to do and how do I do it practically. And even little things like, how often should I do it? How long should I train for? Should I be training 1 hour every day? Should I be training every single day? Should I just be waiting until you come next time? The answer is no.
So what are the most common challenges that you come across with owners?
With owners, okay.
Or you know, in general, in terms of the owners who come to you and say, "Can you help me with this?" There must be some common themes that you get quite a lot
dog
of.
Reactivity is probably one of the most common caseloads that I hold. Human reactivity as well, and then I get a lot of dogs that are just always unsettled, like really high arousal. They don't sleep very well. They're always on go, 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 go. They're always having to be told what to do because they can't decide themselves. So I'd say those are probably the top 3. Dog, human reactivity, and then just general high arousal problems.
I think sometimes it depends on the dog breed as well, because dogs are, you know, over generations have been bred for certain kinds of activities by humans. You know, ours is a Briard. She was, you know, the breed was originally bred for working in fields as a guard dog for herds of animals, sheep in particular. So, you know, she'd be used to just lying around watching, guarding an area and guarding her flock, which she does brilliantly now, guarding her human flock. And you know, she's the most chilled out dog in the world, but if she looks out of the window into the back garden and she sees a fox or a cat, she is like she goes absolutely bonkers. But other kinds of things, she can sit there and watch and she won't react at all to them. And she, you know, another thing, she goes out in the car with us and she's absolutely fine in the car. And when we're out walking, if she sees another dog, she'll have a look, but she doesn't bark or anything. We'll just carry on walking. She'd like to go and say hello to them, but that's all. But when we're in the car, if she sees another dog, she goes absolutely bonkers. It's like she's guarding her territory. It's like she's at home watching out of the window again. And if she saw another dog in the garden, she'd be like that. So there's just certain situations which are psychological situations. And it's about understanding what the dog thinks and being able to change that sort of... That sort of process, isn't it, really? So there must be all sorts of different things like that.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of that people don't quite understand with dog training. I think historically dog training has been so much about skills. And I always explain it to clients in this analogy, like skills is like when you're starting a new job and people are showing you which buttons to press and which things to click. And skills are helpful, of course they're helpful, but when we're looking at behavioral challenges, reactivity, window barking, all these sorts of things, we're talking about emotions, and behavioral work is different from training. And behavioral work is the stuff that you mentioned, you know, why am I suddenly stressed seeing a cat in the garden, or why am I barking at a dog in the car but not in the woodlands or whatever? And that's emotions, and that's more like for a human going and doing therapy or CBT. You're understanding what's the root cause of your feelings, how to manage those feelings, and how to put techniques in place to avoid you feeling like that way again. That's behavioral work. And you've got to have a balance of the two. Both parts are important, but the skills and the obedience has been so much more heavily kind of promoted and talked about that when someone calls me and they say, Carolina, can you help me with my dog's lead walking? And then I say, well, actually, we need to look at these arousal levels. We need to look at these stress levels first, because your dog is not going to lead walk or recall if they're stressed out of their minds all the time. You know, it's like me holding a gun to your head and saying, okay, Paul, memorize this very long number. you're going to be like, oh God, yeah, do you know what I mean? So I have to have that conversation a lot with humans, and that's a very hard part of the job when people have such an ingrained idea of what lead walking should be, because they imagine I would come in and then within a few sessions, the dog is walking to lead. They don't expect me to say, oh, we need to look at the stress. We need to look at how much the dog is sleeping. We maybe need to look at the diet. Actually, I'm noticing the dog is walking a bit funny, so I'm worried there's orthopedic conditions going on and the dog might be in pain. And that could be why they're so highly aroused when they're outside. And that's why they're not listening to you and pulling on the lead so much.
That's why you need an expert.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, lots of different things. Tell me a little bit more about the business then, in terms of the services that you offer, or even, I don't know whether you have an e-commerce site, whether you offer products. So tell me how the business is put together at the moment.
Yeah, so currently Chewing with River operates in person for training in the Lancashire area. But I also offer online training, so I work with clients all over the country and abroad. Nutrition is completely remote. My website is where people go to purchase their programs. So it's fairly simple in that sense. But yeah, at the moment I have one training plan and one nutrition plan, and that is it.
Right.
I don't sell any products.
Right.
I don't sell any resources at the moment. I have my book on Amazon. That's probably the only product that I have.
You've got a book?
You're
a published author?
I guess technically yes, but I shouldn't really call it a book because it's a diary. It's an 8-week training and nutrition journal.
Okay.
So when people are working through any health challenges or any behavioural challenges, the journal supports them to take note of everything that is going on a daily basis. Right.
Okay. So it's a workbook basically.
Yeah.
Okay. You got any thoughts about writing a book?
Not really, if I'm going to be honest. I don't think I have so much that goes on here, and I don't think I have currently the bandwidth to put it down there. So at the moment, it's not really on the horizon for me.
Sometimes it's a good way for building brand reputation and PR. Becoming a key person of influence, in the words of Daniel Priestley.
I think at the moment my writing focus is more on resources, practical resources. I'm really keen to bring out at least 2 resources by the end of the year that people can download from the website.
Brilliant.
That's my focus at the moment in terms of writing.
And what's in the future for Chewing with River?
This is a big question at the moment because I turn 30 in a few months. And I don't know, I think I'm having like a quarter-life crisis or something. So I've been thinking a lot about the practicalities of being a dog trainer as I get older and whether this is something that I can sustainably do for years and years to come, because I don't think people quite understand how physical of a job it is and how dangerous it can be as well. So at the moment, my brain is kind of thinking, how do I maybe shift to more online? And how do I create some sort of support for people that can happen whilst I'm not necessarily there? Because, if I want to have children, if I'm going to go through a pregnancy, maternity leave, those sorts of things, I realistically can't be working with dogs on a day-to-day basis as I am now. So I don't know what that looks like yet. Yeah. But that's what's kind of floating around.
I think one of the biggest challenges for business owners in your position, especially with the kind of services that you're providing at the moment, is at the moment you own a job.
Yeah.
Because you are swapping time for money, and
Absolutely.
if you stop working, your business stops working.
Yeah.
So if you want to transition from that and have more time to do other things like have a baby and bring children up and have, all that kind of stuff, then you have to find some way of being able to make a profit from things which aren't reliant on you being and doing something for somebody at a certain point in time. Because if you continue to swap time for money, that becomes an issue, because you've only got so many hours in the day for a start, so you've only got so much earning capacity.
Yeah, that's it.
And, one of the reasons I mentioned a book isn't because, I'd love to read your book. There's a phrase, isn't there? If there's a book that you haven't read yet, then you should write it. So a book is a typical example of doing something once and getting paid forever. It's leverage. You do the work once and then people buy the book over and over again. And there are other ways of doing that as well. So you've got to think about your business in those terms, in terms of how can you create a business that's built on your brand and your reputation, the reputation of Chewing with River, but isn't relying on you doing things, physically providing those services day in, day out. So have a think about that.
Yeah.
Speak to your coach. If you think back over the years that you've been in business, what are some of the things that have helped you? Are there certain books that you've read, videos that you've watched, mentors that you've worked with in your specific sector that have helped you over time? Yeah,
so you're going to be annoyed by this because you're such an advocate for like the reading and all the personal development stuff. I'm so bad at making time for that. So that's one of my goals for this year, is to dedicate more time to not just nutrition and training learning, but like personal learning and development. So currently I can't really tell you, oh my God, this book changed my life, or this particular author or speaker, whatever. I think it's been more people that have been physically present in my life. So I mean, I'm not just saying this because your podcast, but like you have helped me so much. And you were so like you were such an integral part of me making the decision to actually leave my job and go at it full time and just really go for it. And I think people like you are just invaluable for business owners, particularly if you've never done it before. I'd only ever run a business on the side. It was almost like, a hobby business.
Yeah.
And it is a big difference going from, okay, I'm knackered all the time because I'm working ridiculous hours, but I still have a steady salary coming in, to all of a sudden, oh my God, I need to make the money that I'm going to earn. And yeah, so I think working with you was definitely one of the most pivotal parts of my mindset change, and also making sure that I had like all the systems in place that I needed to make it a success. And I'm just so lucky that I have so many friends and colleagues in the industry and in other industries that are also founders. And I think just having that network has been so important. Yeah. Like I have a friend of mine who's a human PT and also works on human nutrition.
Yeah.
And we have once a month, every single month, we get together for a day to do admin together. And we give ourselves an hour to catch up about life, and then we lock in and we get work done. And even just being able to do things like that with people that get it, and with people that are having similar challenges to me. So like networking, I think, has been a huge part of my success and my ongoing development as well.
Good. One of the things that I often say is community is absolutely vital. Being able to wrap yourselves in a community like Growth Club, for instance, our 90-day planning workshop, where we get a community of business owners together who are all growth-minded. They all want the same, they've all got the same ends and goals in mind in terms of growth for the business and growth in profit and things. Excuse me. And being able to just share challenges and share questions with other people who are like you, who are going to pull you up rather than pull you down, I think is incredibly important. And just having somebody that you can bounce ideas off, The other part of it, in terms of what you said, in terms of training and learning, yes, you need to continue to learn and keep being the best at what you do in terms of core skills and activities, in terms of nutrition and learning, because there'll always be new things to learn in terms of training and that kind of stuff. But it's the other stuff, because you've got two jobs now. You're a trainer and a nutritionist, but you're also a business owner.
Yeah.
And the skills of being a business owner are completely different to the skills of being a dog trainer and a dog nutritionist. I can't teach you anything about dog nutrition and dog training. In fact, you've got a lot to teach me and my other half about our dog, Dora Bear. But I can help people in your position with the skills of being a business owner, all about business planning and thinking about the future. What are you planning on doing? Marketing and marketing materials and how to do a proposal that we talked about recently and all those kind of things. Marketing,
people skills, systemizing your business so you can create that.
Do you
All
know
those
what?
different things are completely different skill sets.
Oh yeah,
For most business
and I
owners.
think something that I see in the industry a lot, particularly with dog trainers, is how many people are amazing dog trainers
Yeah.
but really bad business owners. And I'm seeing so many people closing down their businesses. You know, they were offering so much value to the dogs, so much value to the guardians, but closing down their business because they can't make it sustainable.
Yeah.
And that really, it's so sad to see. And I just think that I have been lucky in many ways that I've been introduced into this business world where I've been able to pick up these business skills, because a lot of people don't think about that side of things. A lot of people, they open a dog training business, they think about, you know, how much am I going to charge? What does my website look like? Is my logo pretty enough? And there's just so much that is so much more important.
And that's the challenge, you know, something like 80% of businesses go out of business in the first 5 years, and then another 80% of that remaining 20% go out of business in the second 5 years. And a lot of the time it's because the people who've gone into business are really skilled at what they do, and they want to make money for themselves rather than earning money for somebody else. Or they've got a passion, they've got a dream about what they want to do, you know, like you do. And they go into business, and then they have a little honeymoon period, because there'll be a few people who've gone, oh, now you're running your own business, we'll do what we were doing with you before, working for somebody else with you. And then all of a sudden they run out of new clients, and the existing clients begin to drift off over time. Naturally, there's a change of clients, and they go, oh, crap, I need to find some new clients. How do I do marketing?
Yeah.
I've never been very good at sales. How do I do sales? How do I find time to do all these other things while I'm trying at the same time to, you know, in your case, train people and talk about nutrition and all that kind of stuff? So the reason that they end up going back and work for somebody else is because they haven't figured out the skills of business ownership, as opposed to the skills of being, you know, their core activity. Yeah. And it's hard. Being in business is hard. Should be simple, but it's still going to be hard. Yeah. You know, so there's two different things there. And I'm really proud to see how you've come on over the last, you know, year or two in terms of what you're doing with your business, because you've hit some really great targets.
Yeah.
You know, you've got an Instagram account now that's got, you know, thousands of followers, and is still going and is still climbing. So, you know, there's lots of great things in there. In terms of what your sort of short-term goals are then, what's next? What's the next biggest thing for you to focus on, do you think?
So I'm currently working on an online training membership, which is going to be completely remote. And that right now is my biggest focus, is making sure that, because there's lots of online training memberships. Yeah. Every trainer and their dog's got one. I want to make this something that offers what people need rather than what I think people need. And so I'm doing a bit of consultation at the moment with existing clients, and also with followers of my social media pages around, you know, what do you need? You know, what is it that you actually want from an online training membership? And so launching that is one of my short-term goals at the moment. And also thinking about how I combine the training and nutrition element a little bit more, because currently, even though there's so much crossover, I will have, for example, a lot of nutrition clients that come to me because they've been referred by other trainers. Yeah. So they're doing training with somebody else. Or I'll have a lot of people that come and do training with me, but not necessarily nutrition. And so thinking about how I link those up a bit more is something that I've been thinking about a lot, because it can be difficult sometimes when I'm in a training program with somebody and I'm seeing clear gaps from a health perspective. Yeah. And then I almost end up doing the nutrition work, but obviously not being remunerated for it, but also not following the proper process that I would have done. So then the client doesn't even get the full experience either. Yeah. So I think combining the two a little bit more is something that I really want to focus on as well. Yeah.
And you do a few workshops and speaking gigs for other people, like vets practices and things like that, don't you?
Yeah. So I'm currently in talks with a local vet clinic about doing some workshops around. Originally, they inquired about training, and then when I had the first meeting, they actually asked me about nutrition, which is huge, because generally speaking, education around nutrition in the vet industry is either quite poor or quite biased. So I was really surprised that they actually asked about nutrition, particularly knowing that I obviously lean more towards like the holistic and fresh feeding side. So that's something that I'm really hoping to do a lot more of. And I do a lot of talks for other trainers as well, which I love doing. And I either speak to their teams if they've got a few employees. I speak to their membership clients. I've done lives on their Facebook pages, that sort of stuff. So that part of things I love because I'm a good trainer. That's my background. You know, that's what I've literally been doing since my first job.
You enjoy public speaking?
I don't know if enjoy public speaking is the right way to put it. I enjoy seeing the light bulbs go on. Yeah. I enjoy knowing that I could have added something to people, but it's still like
you enjoy the results of public
but
speaking.
It's still nerve-wracking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, and I think there's still a lot of imposter syndrome in me, thinking, "Oh God, who am I to be, you know, offering workshops and putting myself forward as some sort of expert of anything?"
You're a nutrition expert and a dog training expert and the founder of a dog training and nutrition business, Chewing with River. You're brilliant at what you do.
God, I know, but the imposter syndrome is, you know, it kicks in, doesn't it?
Does it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Maybe we need to have a discussion about that at some point as your coach.
Yes. It's not as bad as it used to be. I think I've definitely become a lot more confident. And I think people see me talking, and because I'm gobby, they think, "Oh my God, she's so confident." Like, I'm not that confident. Like, I have become more confident. I've certainly become a lot more confident when it comes to advocating for myself and my skills. But, you know, there's still niggles.
You know, I often talk to people about mindset and our self-talk. And, you know, it is the most powerful force in the world. Self-talk, the things that we tell ourselves are incredibly powerful. You know, if we tell ourselves that we are imposters, then it is more likely that we will have that feeling and that sense.
I need to get my affirmations going, don't I, Paul? I need to like stand in front of a mirror and say nice things about myself.
Well, you know, if you look at my desk around the back of this unit here, you'll see a set of affirmations on the wall. And you know, if you think about it this way, if you get somebody who is constantly telling themselves negative things about themselves, how likely are they to have huge amounts of success?
Yeah.
If you get somebody who constantly is affirming positive things about themselves, telling themselves positive things and telling them that they're in the process of learning more positive things, but in the process of becoming more confident, how much more likely is it that they will have that confidence and success in the future?
Yeah.
So if you just think about it that way, you know, your self-talk can determine the direction that you take in the future. Yeah. So,
and my success, ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you know what? I think that's one of the key shifts that I had when I first started chatting to you about this idea of possibly leaving my work and going at it full time. It was that analogy that you use with like the winning and the kind of losing mentality. And I remember going away from that conversation and typing it up and printing it off and sticking it on the wall. I don't know if you'd be able to see, but yeah, that one.
Yeah.
And I remember sticking that above my desk and realizing that actually I was spending so much time in that kind of losing mentality and that negative, not just self-talk, but like just negative talk about everything in my life at that point in time. I was just so unhappy. I was so stressed. My mental health was so poor, but I was stuck in it. And it was so hard to pull myself out of it and be like, right, yes, there's a lot of stuff that is going on around that I maybe can't control. Yes, there's a lot of factors that are not great to be dealing with, but I need to change this mindset, because the more I'm telling myself I'm so stressed, I'm this, and this person is this, and this person is that, and this person is like, I was just like, all the energy that I'm wasting that is getting me absolutely like nowhere. And that was really so helpful. And I still think about it all the time. I still try to catch myself on that.
It's just that, you're either above the line or below the line, the point of power, and nobody's constantly above the line, and the skill in it is listening to the things that you're telling yourself and being more conscious of the things that you're telling yourselves. Because most people don't realise when they're being negative. Yeah. I think the skill in it and the change for me since I started reading more about this and teaching myself this is the skill in it is listening to yourself and catching yourself when you're below the line. And just saying something as simple as, isn't it interesting that I feel like that because of what somebody else said or because of what's happened?
I agree.
And once you've done that, then you know that you can change the way you feel about something. And it has a massive impact on your life moving forwards. Massive impact. Yeah. So if you could offer yourself one piece of advice, your younger self, before you started out in business for yourself, which isn't that long ago, what do you think that piece of advice might be?
Do it now. Stop waiting around for things to seem perfect. Because I think I waited a long time before pulling the trigger, whichever one.
Yeah.
And I wish I'd done it sooner, to be honest. I'm so much happier for it. And business isn't easy. Like, I think sometimes there's a risk of glamorizing that. The moment you quit your job and you work for yourself and you work the hours you want, I'm probably working more hours and I'm probably more stressed about different things that I never had to stress about before, like money. But there's just a sense of achievement in me that I'm not sure I'd ever fulfilled. So, do it now, stop waiting around.
Brilliant. And there's, you've been in business for a while now, and you are a knowledgeable business owner. I listen to the things that you tell me because I learn from you as well.
Stop it.
What, if there was one piece of advice that you could offer to other business owners about any aspect of business, really, what would that advice be?
Oh, I think it has to be open-minded to what other people around you are saying and doing, and take on the feedback, take on the constructive feedback that you're receiving. Because I see so many people that will even engage services like yours, but then are still so resistant to take it on. And if you're resistant to take it on, you're wasting your time and your investment. So just be open-minded and be open to learning, I guess, is it. What's the point of thinking you know it all and the way that you're doing it is the right way? We should all be always learning, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that is the biggest thing that I say to colleagues of mine that are in business. I know you've always done it this way, but is that right just because it's how it's been done?
Don't let your ego get in the way of accepting help.
And it's hard. It's hard. And I remember earlier conversations with you, and you were asking me, okay, what would you need to earn? What would you want to earn? And and how many clients would you need? And I remember just feeling so overwhelmed, thinking, oh my God, I don't know the answers. And oh God, I can never do this. And it's because I was resistant. I wasn't as open as I am now to listening to somebody else and be like, do you know what? Yeah, maybe I'll try that. So, maybe I'll write a book.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I will be the first at the Waterstones counter.
Waterstones, oh my God.
Asking for a copy of your book. But I'll be able to see it on the shelf anyway, because it'll be taking pride of place in the middle of the shelf.
Oh my God, big goals there.
There you go, there's a good goal. How do people find you in terms of, your website and things?
Yes, so best way to get in touch with me is via WhatsApp. My WhatsApp is available on my social media pages. My Instagram handle is @chewingwithriver. Same name on Facebook, and my website is chewingwithriver.com.
Brilliant. Carolina, it's been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to read your book. I'm going to keep going on about that now.
Okay.
And we definitely need to talk about Dora, don't we?
Yes.
But we're going to do that off air.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Welcome to Lancashire Business Stories. I'm your host, Paul Lim, and this week we're joined by Carolina de Almeida Kennedy, the founder of Chewing with River. We'll hear about Carolina's business journey from working in the Students' Union to taking part-time puppy classes and becoming a full-time canine nutrition and trainer. And she'll talk about the link between nutrition and training and some of the misconceptions around that. Talking about being wary online, about what's going on, how she's built her business and how she's building her business through strategic partnerships and her online presence, and about what's in it. Welcome to this week's Lancashire Business Stories. This week we're joined by Welcome to this week's Lancashire Business Stories. On this episode, we're joined by Carolina de Almeida Kennedy, the founder of Chewing with River. We'll hear about how she started out working in students' unions and doing part-time puppy classes, and then following her passion to become a full-time canine nutrition and training specialist. We'll talk about some of the misconceptions that are out there about canine training and nutrition. She'll talk about how to be wary of fucking hell. Blah, blah, blah. Welcome to this week's edition of Lancashire Business Stories. This week we're joined by Carolina de Almeida Kennedy. Welcome to this week's edition of Lancashire Business Stories. I'm your host, Paul Lim, and this week we're joined by Carolina de Almeida Kennedy, the founder of Chewing with River. We'll hear about Carolina's story, how she started out working part-time in students' unions and taking puppy classes, through to following her passion for dogs and becoming a canine nutrition and training specialist. We'll hear about her story of growth in the business, how she's now taking that forwards and what her plans are for the future, and about some of the cautions that she offers around some of the... Oh, fucking hell, Paul. Blah, 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 blah. Welcome to this week's edition of Lancashire Business Stories. I'm your host, Paul Lim, and this week we're joined by Carolina de Almeida Kennedy, the founder of Chewing with River. We'll hear about Carolina's story from working in a students' union to taking part-time puppy classes and then following her passion for dogs and becoming a canine nutrition and training specialist. We'll hear how the name Chewing with River came about and about her plans for the future and how she's grown her business through strategic partnerships and her online platforms, and about what's there for the future. She'll also have some advice for those out there who are seeing lots of last one. Welcome to this week's edition of Lancashire Business Stories. I'm your host, Paul Lim, and this week we're joined by Carolina de Almeida Kennedy, the founder of Chewing with River. We'll hear Carolina's story about how she started off working in a students' union and then taking part-time puppy classes before following her passion for dogs and becoming a canine nutrition and training specialist. We'll hear how she's grown her business and about her plans for the future. And also she offers a word of caution because there's lots of stuff out there on the internet at the moment about dog training and dog nutrition, and she'll debunk some of the myths and give you some of the facts about how to move forward with your favourite pet. I'm really looking forward to this discussion with Carolina. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, then please follow us and subscribe wherever you can. It'll do the world of good for our podcast, and we look forward to fucking hell, fuckity fuck. Welcome to this week's edition of Lancashire Business Stories. Welcome to this week's edition of Lancashire Business Stories. I'm your host, Paul Lim, and this week we're joined by Carolina de Almeida Kennedy, the founder of Chewing with River. We'll hear Carolina's story about how she started out working in a students' union and taking part-time training in puppy classes to following her passion for dogs and becoming a full-time canine nutrition and training specialist. We'll talk to Carolina about her plans for the future and how she's grown a business through strategic partnerships and through her online presence. And we'll find out how the name Chewing with River came about. If you haven't Oh, for God's sake, Paul. Bleh. Once more. Welcome to this edition of Lancashire Business Stories. I'm your host, Paul Lim, and this week we're joined by Carolina de Almeida Kennedy, the founder of Chewing with River. We'll hear about Carolina's story, how she started out working in a students' union and taking part-time puppy classes to following her passion for dogs and becoming a full-time canine nutrition and training specialist. We'll hear how she's grown the business, both online and through strategic partnerships, and about her plans for the future. And we'll also hear how she came up with the name, Chewing with River. Now, if you haven't listened to the podcast before and this is your first time, please hit the subscribe and follow buttons. We'd really appreciate your help. Let's get to it.